By the spring, the water came up. She was already too old for that line. My daughter said that. Into a microphone. About me. I was 60 years old and sitting in the third row. Nobody in that hall knew I'd held a piece of that levee myself. The man who did know stood by the door with something folded in his fist. 11 springs before he'd handed me that thing at first light and taken it back after dark. To understand how a folded scrap settled a vote, I have to go back to the water. My name is Arletta Hoyt, and I'm 60. I gave the Army 28 years. Then I came home to the county I was born in, out along the Wapsipinicon bottoms. The district hired me to run maintenance for the schools. Boilers roofs the buses in the cold. A school district pays me to keep the boilers lit, and most people stop reading there. I let them. I always have. When folks around here talk about me, they say I was in the service, and now I do the schools. That's the whole file as far as this town is concerned. My daughter kept it that way harder than anyone. Camille has a desk at the bank and a seat on every committee that meets. When she introduces me, she has one line for it. My mother does maintenance for the district, not the Army. Not the 28 years. The boilers. I stood beside her at a bank dinner once and heard her do it. This is my mother Arletta. She keeps the schools running. Pleased to meet you, the man said. Custodial work, maintenance, Camille said. Boilers and buses. Long hours, I bet. She manages, Camille said, and steered him towards somebody with a title. I ate my chicken and said nothing at all. The chicken was fine. That's the version of me my own girl carried into every room. I never corrected her. I'll own that. I thought it was a small kindness. Lottie is my younger sister. She's the one who still calls on Sundays. She had a shoebox of our father's things on her lap that whole night, and it matters, so hold on to it. Our father worked the levee crew in a flood of his own day long before mine. Sandbags and mule teams, the way they did it then. There's river water in this family. That spring, the district turned 100 years old. 100 years of holding the Wapsi off the bottoms where we grew our corn. Camille chaired the committee for it. She wanted a stone at the foot of the levee. A real one, cut and lettered with names on it that would outlast all of us. I thought that was a fine thing to want. I told her so. It'll be beautiful, I said. It has to be right, she said. People will read it for 100 more years. She wasn't wrong about that, and she's rarely wrong about a thing like that. Who goes on it? I asked her. 2 lists, guests and the flood veterans. And who says who's a veteran? The record does, Mama. Always the record. I let that pass. I should have heard it. The committee was going to vote the names into 2 lists that spring. I didn't think not once that a vote on a stone could cut me. I should have. The water taught me that lesson the first time. 11 springs before I learned what a levee does to people who look away from it. Let me take you back to that morning, because the whole thing turns on it. It was the worst spring the bottoms had seen in 50 years. The Wapsi came up brown and fast and did not stop coming. The district called for every hand it could raise, and I went down before first light. There were maybe 40 of us on the crown that morning, and 1 man giving out sections. Mr. Gideon Straw ran the district then, and he runs it still. He was near 60 that spring, with a canvas kit bag and a box of armbands. They were plain cloth bands olive drab, the kind an outfit hands a line boss. Each one had a section number stitched inside the fold down where your wrist would be. Section 1 down by the pump house, Section 12 up where the old spillway is. He handed them out slow, one at a time, and he looked at your face when he did it. You've done this before, he said to me. Some. Not on this river. You built levees for the Army. I built a few, graded more than I built. He had a pencil behind his ear, and he took it down. I'm giving you 9. It's the worst of the middle. Why the worst? Because the worst is where I need somebody who won't run. Then he did a thing I'd never seen a man do with a scrap of cloth. He turned the band inside out on his knee, licked the pencil, and wrote on the lining. "What are you writing? Your name, so I know whose is whose when they come back." "Nobody reads the inside of an armband, Gideon." "I do. Hold still." He wrote my name in his own hand, right under the stitched 9. Then he wrote 3 more words next to it small, and I didn't ask what. He tied it on my arm himself and pulled the knot down tight. Section 9. "It holds or the town floods. Those are the choices." "It'll hold." "Say it like you did in the army." "It will hold." He nodded once and moved on down the line. And that was the whole of it. I held Section 9 for 2 days and a night while the river tried to take it. I was 49 years old that spring, and I was the strongest hand on my stretch. There was a boy on my crew, maybe 19, bagging faster than he could think. "Ma'am, 8's going. You see it?" "I see it. Keep bagging." "Shouldn't we go help them?" "We hold 9. Somebody else holds 8. "But if 8 goes down?" "If 8 goes, 9 keeps the town dry. Bag." He bagged. He didn't ask me anything again that night. Gideon came up my stretch near midnight with a lantern and a thermos. "How's she holding it?" "She's weeping at the toe, not sliding." "You sure about the difference?" "I've watched 100 miles of levee weep. She's not sliding." He handed me the thermos and stood there a while. "I put you on 9 because you'd know weeping from sliding." "Then you put me right." "Sleep an hour. That's an order I can't give you." "No, you can't." He left the thermos on a sandbag anyway. I never slept, but the coffee helped. "I won't give you the rest. The rest is mud and cold hands. What matters is that 9 held when 8 nearly went and the town stayed dry." When the water dropped, Gideon came back up the line collecting the bands. He counted them into the box the way you'd count rounds after a range day. "Untie it," he said. "Give it here." I reached up to untie mine, and somebody down at 6 started shouting about a boil. He turned and went, and I went after him. The band stayed on my arm. By the time that was handled, he was gone home, and I was gone home. I never gave it back. I found it in my coat that night and dropped it in a drawer. I meant to run it up to him. I never did. 11 years and I never did. That's the plant, and I forgot all about it the way you forget a thing that saved you. Now go forward 11 springs to the committee and the stone. The stone was going to carry 2 lists, and the committee argued about them for weeks. The first list was the easy one. The invited guests of the centennial. Donors, the bank, the county board, people who write checks and cut ribbons. Camille had that list done in an afternoon. Her own name was on it, near the top. The second list was the one that mattered, and it was the one that turned into a fight. They called it the Floodline Veterans. It meant one thing, and the committee wrote the meaning down so there'd be no argument. A floodline veteran was a person who had held a numbered section of the line in a district flood. Not a donor, not a volunteer who filled bags for an hour. A section holder. Somebody the district had put in charge of a stretch by name with the water up. The committee chewed on that definition for an hour. So a man who bagged all night doesn't count? He counts as a volunteer, not a section holder. That seems hard. "It's a stone," Camille said. "Hard is the point of it. Who decides who held a section? The record does, if there's a record." An old farmer named Del Pruitt raised a hand at the back. "I held 4 in your daddy's flood," he told the room. "We have you, Mr. Pruitt. You're on the list." "Good. Put the young ones on it, too. There were some." Camille wrote something down and did not look my way. I knew right then how the vote would go. I said nothing. There weren't many of us left, and floods are far apart out here, thank God. My father's flood had its holders, and they were all gone now but 2. My flood had its holders, and I was one of them, and most people had forgotten it. "How do we know who held a section?" a man on the committee asked. We asked the district, somebody said. They'd have a record. Camille shook her head at that, and I watched her do it. There's no clean record. It was chaos. People just showed up. Somebody was in charge of each stretch. Maybe. That was 11 years ago. I was in the room for that. I'll admit my face got warm. I could have stood right up and said I held 9 Gideon straw. But a woman doesn't stand up in a committee and claim her own honor. Not out here. You wait to be named. If you have to name yourself, it isn't worth the stone. So I sat on my hands, and I let my daughter run the meeting. Over those weeks, the committee called me Mrs. Hoyt more times than I can count. Mrs. Hoyt, would you help with the chairs? Mrs. Hoyt, is your sister coming? Mrs. Hoyt, who does the schools. Nobody once said the other thing. Camille got a version of the veterans list together off memory and a few old photos. She read it out at a meeting near the end of March. 8 names, she said. That's the veterans list. Read them out, somebody said. I sat there and waited to hear my name. And it did not come. 8 names. My father's flood and one from a flood before that. Not one from mine. Not one holder from the worst spring in 50 years, the one this whole town remembered. That can't be the whole list, I said. It was the first thing I'd said all night. Camille gave me the face she saves for a relative who's slowing her down. Mama, we can't put people on a stone off a feeling. It isn't a feeling. People held that line. Then they'll come forward and we'll check it. And if they don't come forward, then it stays clean. The stone has to be clean. I understood her then. And it was worse than being angry. She wasn't leaving me off to be cruel. She'd simply never counted me among them. To my own daughter, I was the boilers. I was the woman who does the schools. The flood belonged to somebody younger. Somebody with a story she'd actually heard. Grief is a strange word for what I felt in that folding chair. But that's the word. She put my name on the other list that same night without telling me first. The guest list. Down near the bottom under the county surveyor. I found out because Lottie called me and asked why I was with the donors. I'm on the guest list. You're on the guest list. Right there under the surveyor. Read me the veterans list. She read me the 8 names, and I made her read them twice. You're not on it, Arletta. No. Do you want me to call her? Don't call her! Let me think! Camille came by 2 days later to drop off a folder. You saw the lists, she said. I saw them. You're on the guest list. It's a good spot. Under the surveyor. It's a good spot, Mama. I held a section, Camille. You keep saying that. Because it's true, and you keep not hearing it. She left the folder and didn't stay for coffee. I sat at my own kitchen table a long time after that, and I did not sleep. The next morning, I did the only thing I know how to do. I went looking for the record. I drove to the district office, which is one room over the co-op on the main street. The clerk was a young man named Perry who does the billing. I need to see who held the sections in the big flood. Held them how? Section bosses, the people put in charge of a stretch. Perry typed for a while, and then stopped typing. We've got the pay sheets from that spring. Sandbag crews meal counts fuel. Not the crews, the section bosses. By name. There's no list like that. There has to be. Look under the pay sheets. There'd be a duty roster. There's no roster. I've had this box open all morning. Somebody signed for the sandbags. Somebody logged the fuel. People signed. None of it says who ran what. Ma'am, I've got a box of receipts, a lot of names that filled bags. That's it. I stood at that counter and felt the floor tilt a little. How did the district know who was in charge of what? I don't know. That was before my time. That was Gideon's to run. I asked where Gideon was, and Perry pointed his pencil at the back. Gideon Straw was in the back room with his boots up. 70 years old and still on the payroll. He didn't get up. He looked at me over his glasses like he'd been expecting me for a week. You want to be on the stone? He said. I held a section. I want it counted right, that's all. I know you held a section. I don't have to look it up. The office says there's no list. There isn't. There was never a list. How can there be no list? He took his boots down off the desk and leaned forward on his knees. I ran it out of my head and off the bands. That's how we did it. The bands. Numbered inside. I gave them out. I took them back, counted them into a box. And the box. He rubbed his jaw and took his time, the way old men do when the answer costs something. Most got thrown out years ago. A few are still in a bin in the shed. How many are left? 6 or 8? I haven't counted in years. Then let's look in the bin. They've got no names on the outside, Arletta. Just cloth. Which one would be yours? That stopped me because I remembered. The name was on the inside, in his pencil. You wrote the names inside, on the ones I trusted with the bad sections. Not all of them. You wrote mine. I wrote yours. I remember the pencil. Then say you remember. Say it to the committee. Memory doesn't carve a stone, Arletta. You know that. So there's a band in that bin with my name in it. He looked at me for a long moment and did not answer that. Gideon, is there or isn't there? You didn't give yours back, so it wouldn't be in the bin. The back room went dead still, and Perry had stopped typing out front. Then where is it? That's the question, isn't it? He said, and he put his boots back up on the desk. I understood standing there that I'd walked into the one door I couldn't push open. There was no clean record, and there never had been. The record was cloth and a man's pencil, and the only proof that I'd held 9 was a band nobody could produce, mine included. I couldn't prove it, and I could only say it. And out here saying it isn't worth a stone. I took the long road home, up along the crown of the levee, and I didn't stop the truck. That week, the dread settled in for good. And it wasn't the loud kind. It was the kind that sits down next to you and stays for supper. Camille called me the Tuesday before about the display case. I need Grandpa's medal for it. And the pocket watch. Lottie has the box. She'll bring it down. Thank you. It'll look wonderful under the glass. Camille. About the veterans list. There was a pause on her end. I knew too well. Mama, we've been over it. I held 9. You know I was down there. I know you helped. Everybody helped that spring. I didn't help. I ran a section. You were what? Nearly 52 days in the mud? I was the strongest hand on that stretch. I'm sure it felt that way at the time. That sentence went in like a splinter and stayed. It didn't feel like anything. It's just true. I have to keep the stone clean. You taught me that. I taught you to check a thing before you carve it. She said she had another call. She didn't, but she said it. I sat with the phone in my lap and named the feeling out loud. Grief. Lottie came over on the Wednesday with the shoebox of our father's things. Camille had asked her for it for a display case at the Centennial. Old photos, a medal, a pocket watch. We went through it at my table slow, the way you handle a dead parent's things. She wants his stuff for the case, Lottie said, but not you on the stone. She doesn't think of me that way. That's the truth of it. You held the worst section on the river. I know what I held. Knowing isn't the same as proving. I was looking for one thing in that box, and it wasn't there. I don't know why I thought Dad might have my band. He never had it. I did, and then I lost it. It's not here, I said. What isn't? Nothing. A thing I hoped I'd kept. I didn't keep it. Lottie set her palm down next to mine the way she does instead of talking. You could just tell them, Arletta. Stand up and tell the room. You don't stand up and hand yourself an honor. It has to come from somebody else. Then let it go. Let her have her clean stone. I've let a lot go, I said. I don't know that I can let go of the flood. You held that section for 2 whole days, Lottie said. Nobody carves a stone off to days nobody wrote down. I was proud of you then. I still am. I know you are. You're the one who remembers. Somebody has to remember. Somebody always does. It's rarely the committee. That's the closest I came to crying that spring. At my own table, over a shoebox. Then I put it away because I had a meeting to sit through and no name on any list I wanted. Lottie stayed the night on the couch. Neither of us slept much. In the morning, she made coffee and didn't ask me any more questions. She's a stand-in for a lot of things, my sister. She stands in for the parts of me that break. She'd sit beside me at that meeting and hold the box, and that would be her whole job. She wasn't going to stand up and testify. That isn't who she is, and I'd never ask it. The night before the meeting, I called Gideon at home. It's Arletta. I won't ask you to speak. Good. I wasn't going to. I just wanted to say I held it. I know you held it. Get some sleep. You keep telling me to sleep. You keep not doing it. He hung up gentle. I took no comfort from it. The meeting was the second Thursday of April in the district hall by the grain elevator. I put on a clean plaid shirt and a canvas work coat because I was nobody's honored guest. I was on the guest list, down under the surveyor. I could sit and clap for a stone. I almost didn't go. Lottie put her coat on and stood by the door until I got up. I'm not going, I said. You're going, Lottie said. To sit with the donors, to sit with me. We're going, she said. We're going. The hall was full by 7, with folding chairs, in rows the same kind we always set out. The centennial banner hung crooked over the coffee. Somebody had brought a sheet cake, of course. Camille was up front with a microphone and a stack of blue folders. Gideon Straw came in late and stood by the door with his kit bag over his shoulder. He didn't sit. He never sits at a meeting. He stands by the door like a man half gone already. I found a chair in the 3rd row. Lottie sat beside me with the shoebox on her knees. Camille ran the first part clean, the budget, the mason, the date of the dedication. Then she got to the stone, and the room leaned in, because a stone is forever out here. We're voting the 2 lists tonight, she said. Guests and the floodline veterans. She read the guest list first. Long and easy and full of checkbooks. My name went by near the bottom. A few people turned and gave me a kind little nod. The boiler lady on the guest list. Isn't that nice? Then she read the veterans list. The 8 names. My father among them, and that stung its own way. Are there any additions to the veterans list? She asked. It was a formality. A man near the front raised his hand and pointed straight at me. Arletta held a section. I filled bags on 9. She ran it. The room murmured. Camille's face did a thing I'd seen since she was small. We can't add names off a memory, she said. The stone has to be provable. Everybody in the bottoms knows she ran 9. Knowing isn't a record. I'm sorry. We agreed on that rule. Then she said the thing. She didn't mean it the way it landed, but she said it. And by the spring the water came up. My mother was already too old for that line. Too old. At 49. The strongest hand on the worst stretch of the river. The hall went quiet in that bad way. People looked at their laps for me. I sat still. I kept my hands on my knees, and I did not stand up. Lottie's arm came against mine hard, holding me in the chair, as much as comforting me. All in favor of the veterans list as read, Camille said, and hands started to go up. That's when the boots came down the center aisle. Gideon Straw walked up the middle of that hall with his kit bag open and his hand inside it. Hold the vote. Not loud. He didn't need loud. Camille lowered the microphone. Mr. Straw, we're mid-vote. I know what you're mid. Hold it. He got to the front and turned to face the room, and he took his hand out of the bag. There was a scrap of cloth in it, folded once olive drab, gone gray with age. I ran the line in the big flood, he said. Every section boss I handed out myself. We know that, Camille said. But there's no list. There's no list because I was the list. Me and the bands. He held the folded thing up so the front rows could see it was nothing much. Numbered inside. On the bad sections I wrote the holder's name inside. That's still a memory, Mr. Straw. No, this is not a memory. This is the band. He looked around for a place to set it, and every chair was full. So he unfolded a spare chair from the wall, opened it, and laid the scrap flat on the seat. He put 2 fingers on it to hold it down, and he bent over it and he read. He read off the cloth, not off his head. Off the ink and the thread. Section 9, he read. Stitched right here. And under it in my own pencil. The whole hall had stopped breathing, and somebody's chair creaked and went still. Hoyt, he read. Arletta. And 3 more words I put next to it that morning. What 3 words? A man said because somebody had to. Gideon straightened up and looked at my daughter when he said them. Army, engineer, trusted. Then he told the room the rest. The part he'd known for 11 years and never once used. Chief Warrant Officer 5, Arletta Hoyt, United States Army. 28 years an engineer. The word engineer went around that room like a stone dropped in a pond. She built levees for the Army before some of you were born. That's who ran 9. Silence. The real kind, the kind that comes after a thing lands and everybody does the math. The man who'd pointed at me spoke first, low. I filled bags for her 2 days. She never sat down. A woman 3 rows back put a hand over her mouth. That's the boiler lady. That's the boiler lady, Gideon said. Somebody near the coffee asked it out loud. Why didn't she ever say so? Gideon looked at me, and he let me keep my quiet. She's built like a levee, he said. You don't hear from it until it holds. I gave 9 to one hand on this river. The one I never had to check on, he said. I kept her band. It's the one I was proudest to hand out. That's the only reason. He folded the scrap back up slow, and he did not give it to me. He held on to it. Her name was on the inside the whole time, he said. You just had to turn it over. I did not stand up, and I did not say a word. There wasn't a word that would have added to it. Camille stood at the front, with the microphone down at her side, and she'd gone pale. I didn't know, she said, and it came out small. You didn't ask, Gideon said. He wasn't cruel about it. He just set it down like that. The man who'd pointed at me made a motion, and a woman seconded it before he finished. All in favor of adding Arletta Hoyt to the veterans list. Hands went up all over that hall before the chairs had stopped scraping. Camille raised hers last. But she raised it. I'll always give her that. She raised it. She set the microphone down on the table beside her folders. Is there a motion to add my mother's name? I already made it, the farmer said. Then it carries. Her voice did not hold. Nobody in that room asked her to explain herself, and I was glad of it. Shame is a hard thing to watch on your own child's face, even when it's earned. The meeting ran on to other business, and I couldn't tell you one thing they voted after. An old man leaned across the aisle on his way out. You should have told us years ago. You'd have thought I was bragging. Maybe. We'd have gotten over it. I know that now. I didn't then. Lottie held my hand and the shoebox both, and I sat there and let it be over. An hour after the vote, I walked up onto the crown of the levee in the dark. That's where they were going to set the stone, at the foot of the slope facing the water. I don't know why I went up. My feet just took me the way they had that morning years back. I still had on the plaid shirt and the canvas work coat. Nobody had put me on a program. Gideon had come out to the truck before I left and put the band in my hand. It's yours. It always was. I just held it for you. 11 years, Gideon. You were busy. So was I. Take it. It was in my right hand, up on that crown folded once across my palm. It weighed nothing. It had never weighed anything. It just held a name and a number. Lottie came partway up the slope behind me and stopped and turned to look at the water. I was still half stunned, if I'm honest. My eyebrows were probably still up around my hairline. I hadn't caught up yet to what had happened in that hall. It takes a while. Below us, the Wapsie ran quiet and brown, the way it does when it isn't trying to kill you. I stood there and turned the band over in my fingers and read my own name in his pencil. The river had come for this town 100 years, and people held it back with their bodies. Somebody has to be trusted with the worst section. That spring it had been me. Camille came up the slope a while later. She'd taken off her committee lanyard. She stopped a few feet off the way you stop when you don't know if you're welcome. I really didn't know, Mama. I know you didn't. You never told me. You let me call you the boiler lady. I did. That was mine to answer for. Why? I thought about it a long time before I gave her the honest one. Because I wanted to see if you'd come to it yourself. That was pride. It cost me. You could have just handed me the band. A mother who hands you her honor isn't handing you much. I would have believed you. Maybe. Or you'd have thought I needed it. I didn't. I sat you with the guests, Mama. You did. And an old man fixed it. Let that be enough. It's not enough for me. Then do better by the next one you count too small. She started to cry then, up on that levee. A grown woman with a stone to build. I put the band in her hand and folded her fingers over it. Put 9 on the stone, I said. Not for me. For the ones who don't come home to tell it. I will. And put your grandfather's flood right beside it. He held a section too. She nodded. And she held that scrap of cloth like it might come apart, and maybe it will someday. We stood up there until the cold ran us down off the crown and back to the trucks. The stone went in that fall, and I went to the dedication in the same plaid shirt. A stranger stopped me at the foot of the stone. You're the one who ran 9. I am. My mother's house is down in the bottoms. Then it was worth the 2 days. Thank you for holding it. My name is on it cut in granite on the second list, the one that matters. It reads the way the band reads. Section 9. Hoyt. Nothing about the army. Leave the rank off, I told Camille. Mama, the rank is the best part. It's not the part that held the water. People should know what you were. The stone is for what I held, not what I was. She fought me another round, then she let it go. I won that one. The stone isn't for what you were. It's for what you held when the water came. 3 years on now, Camille runs the whole Centennial Fund, and she's good at it. She tells my story to strangers now, the engineer part, the 28 years, all of it. She overdoes it, if anything. I have to slow her down. Mama built levees for the army, she'll say. And I'll say, graded a few roads mostly. Gideon Straw finally retired last year at 71, and they gave him a stone of his own. He earned it, running a line out of his head and a box of numbered cloth. Lottie still calls on Sundays. The shoebox is a display case at the district hall now. Here's the thing I carried down off that levee, and I'll give it to you plain. Nobody in that hall was going to take my word for it, and they were right not to. A stone lasts 100 years. It can't be built on what people feel about you. What put my name on that stone wasn't my rank. It wasn't my nerve. It wasn't anything I said. It was one old man who wrote 3 words inside a scrap of cloth on a bad morning. He wrote them when it didn't matter yet, and he kept the cloth when nobody asked him to. Be the one who writes it down. Turn the thing over and read what's on the inside. Somewhere down the line, somebody you've counted too old or too small will need exactly that. If this one sat with you, pass it along to someone who's been left off a list they earned. I hope you'll come back and sit with me for the next one.